She steps onto the stage with a smile that seems effortless, the kind of smile that has accompanied her from childhood all the way into the glare of China's entertainment spotlight. To millions, Yang Zi is the embodiment of warmth and familiarity, a face they have grown up with, a presence that feels safe. But tonight, under these same lights, that smile hides something heavier, an untold story, a quiet storm that has followed her for years like a shadow she never asked for. Because behind her success, behind every hit drama and every tearful performance, lies a question that no one has ever truly answered. Why does one of China's most beloved actresses constantly find herself at the center of battles she never started? Rumors have swirled around her for years. Lost roles that disappeared without explanation. Waves of online criticism emerging at the most calculated moments. Strange shifts in casting decisions that left even insiders confused. None of these incidents alone prove anything, but together they form a pattern too deliberate to ignore, a pattern that suggests forces far beyond her control have been moving quietly behind the scenes. It raises a possibility more unsettling than any scandal. The Yang Zi's greatest obstacles were never mistakes or fate, but decisions made in rooms she was never invited into. For the first time, we will step into the shadows that have trailed her career. We will examine the silent pressures, the whispered warnings, the invisible hands that shape destinies in an industry, where power speaks softly yet strikes ruthlessly. And as we peel back these layers, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The story of Yang Zi is not just the story of a rising star. It is the story of a woman who learned to stand against a system designed to make her fall. Let's begin. Before the controversies, before the public debates, before the weight of unseen expectations tighten around her, Yang Zi was simply a girl who found comfort in acting long before she understood what fame meant. Born in 1992 and cast for the first time at the age of 10, she entered the entertainment industry at a time when most children were trying to memorize classroom songs. Acting was not a career choice for her. It was an instinct, a language she understood more naturally than anything else. Her breakthrough came in 2005 with the sitcom Home with Kids, a show that became a cultural touchstone for millions of Chinese families. Yang Zi, then a young teenager, became a national icon almost overnight. Everyone knew her face. Everyone recognized her voice. She became the child of the nation, the girl audiences felt they watched grow up inside their living rooms. But early fame is both a blessing and a trap. The public rarely lets a child star grow freely. They freeze that image in time, expecting innocence to follow them into adulthood. And for years, that frozen image clung to Yang Zi like a second skin. As she matured, she found that shedding the past was far harder than earning it. Producers admired her charm, but doubted her potential as a leading lady. Casting directors struggled to imagine her as anything other than the bright, talkative girl from her childhood sitcom. During these transitional years, roles became scarce. Months passed without meaningful offers. There were moments when she wondered whether the industry she loved would allow her to stay, or whether she had already lived out her finest chapter before adulthood even arrived. Yet she continued to train, enrolling at the Beijing Film Academy and rebuilding her craft from the foundation up. Her determination paid off in 2018 when Ashes of Love became a massive phenomenon across Asia. Overnight, she was no longer the nostalgic memory of a childhood sitcom. She was a fully recognized actress with emotional depth and undeniable star power. Her performance captivated audiences, critics, and directors alike. For a moment, it looked as though the industry had finally opened its doors to her. But success, especially in the world she inhabited, often carried a price she did not yet understand. As her popularity surged, so did unseen resistance. Behind every achievement, new frictions quietly emerged. Discussions about her roles were met with more scrutiny than praise. Her growing influence made some uneasy. In an industry governed not just by talent, but by relationships, unwritten rules and power hierarchies. Yang Zi stepped into a complicated maze where not all paths were guided by fairness. Her story, once defined by innocence and hard work, began to intersect with forces she could not see but could undeniably feel. Still, she tried to navigate her career with grace. She avoided conflict, stayed respectful, and focused on acting. But the entertainment world is not a gentle place, and being kind does not shield one from the ambitions of others. As her fame grew larger, so did the expectations placed upon her. And somewhere in this delicate balance between opportunity and threat, admiration and rivalry, something shifted. The atmosphere around her changed. The support she once felt became inconsistent. The silence around her successes grew louder than the applause. What she didn't know then was that the most significant battles of her career were not going to take place on screen. They were forming quietly behind her, gathering like a storm she would eventually have to face. The tension brewing beneath her rising success would soon reveal itself, in ways she never anticipated. And it would begin with one moment, one incident, that showed her just how fragile the illusion of stability could be. The turning point did not crash into Yang Zi's life with noise or spectacle. It arrived quietly, disguised as an opportunity that should have strengthened her career. She had been confirmed, at least internally, for a major drama produced by a well-funded studio with strong industry backing. It was the kind of project that promised prestige, the kind that could further solidify her position as a top actress. Meetings had been held, her team had begun early preparation, and the production was preparing to make the official announcement. But in the weeks leading to that moment, subtle disturbances began to ripple around her. It started with an unusual uptick in online chatter. Anonymous accounts questioned her suitability for the role, even though the casting had not yet been made public. Comments accusing her of being unprofessional or hard to work with surfaced without context. Yet they spread with suspicious coordination. Yang Zi had endured hate comments before any actress with her level of fame had, but this felt different. The timing was too sharp, the content too synchronized, as if someone had lit a fuse beneath her feet and was quietly waiting for the flames to rise. She tried to ignore the noise. After all, rumors are currency in the entertainment world. They come and go like weather. But then an endorsement negotiation she had nearly finalized suddenly stalled. A magazine shoot schedule for the following week was postponed without explanation. A brand partnership she had been in talks for was abruptly reassigned to an actress from a rival agency. Each incident felt small on its own, but together they formed a constellation that pointed to something far more deliberate. The real blow came when the production she had prepared for finally released its official cast list. Her name was not on it. Another actress, one who happened to be connected to a powerful investor in the project, had replaced her. No explanation, no apology, not even an acknowledgement that she had ever been attached. The silence was louder than any statement could have been. It was the kind of silence that speaks of decisions made in private. Rooms, discussions one is never meant to witness, and motivations that are never meant to be understood. Her fans erupted instantly, confused and angry. They demanded answers from the studio, posting screenshots showing past hints and internal leaks that had all but confirmed Yang Zi as the lead. The studio responded with a single sentence. The casting was adjusted due to creative considerations. It was a phrase the industry used often, vague enough to deflect blame, polished enough to silence further questioning, but cold enough to signal that the matter was closed. Yet insiders whispered a different story. Rumors circulated that one of the investors believed Yang Zi's growing popularity might overshadow the male lead. Others claimed that her refusal to accept a previous project backed by the same capital group had not been forgotten. A few suggested that the sudden wave of online negativity had been manufactured to justify removing her before the announcement. None of these claims could be proven, but they traveled fast among those who paid attention to the machinery behind C Entertainment. For the first time, even casual observers sensed that something unseen was working against her. The atmosphere around Yang Zi changed overnight. The disappointment was not just professional, it was personal. She had worked tirelessly to grow beyond her past, to prove her versatility, to earn roles through skill rather than fame. Losing a project for legitimate reasons is a part of the job, but losing one without reason, paired with a manufactured wave of criticism, carried a different weight. It suggested intent. It suggested control. It suggested that forces beyond her vision were shaping her path more powerfully than she ever imagined. This incident marked the moment when the equilibrium of her career shifted. The drama she lost was no longer simply a missed opportunity. It became the spark that illuminated a far larger, more complex web of politics surrounding her. From this point forward, nothing would feel coincidental again. The quiet currents working beneath her career began to reveal themselves, and the unspoken rules of the industry she loved would soon become impossible for her to ignore. What began as a single casting change would unravel into a series of events that exposed the invisible. Pressures, alliances, and punishments woven into the fabric of the entertainment world. And Yang Zi, unwillingly, was about to find herself at the center of it all. The loss of that drama should have been just another stumble in a long career, something that could be easily rationalized as creative differences or internal adjustments. But what followed was a cascade of events that made it impossible to believe this was coincidence. Slowly, the air around Yang Zi began to change. Opportunities that once came freely now hesitated before reaching her. Conversations that once felt warm turned guarded. The industry that had embraced her after Ashes of Love now seemed to observe her with a quiet, unnerving distance, as if waiting for her to make a move she did not understand she was being tested for. She felt the shift first through silence. Messages that used to be returned within minutes began arriving hours late. People she had collaborated with for years suddenly became overly polite, choosing their words with care as if they were afraid of being overheard. Directors congratulated her on past projects but avoided discussing future ones. Producers praised her talent, yet stopped short of committing to anything new. It was not rejection, it was hesitation. And in this industry, hesitation is often a warning disguised as courtesy. The media pressure intensified next. Just as she considered new roles, another wave of criticism appeared online, questioning her versatility, her appearance, her suitability for leading roles. It was always the same pattern. An anonymous post gaining sudden traction, followed by coordinated commentary that seemed designed to amplify each flaw, each insecurity. The timing was too precise, always arriving when she stood on the edge of a breakthrough. Yang Zi tried to ignore it, hoping the storm would pass, but she could not ignore the impact it had on people around her. Some brands grew cautious. Some casting teams became reluctant. She was not losing roles because she was unqualified. She was losing them because she had become a risk. The whispers behind the scenes grew louder. Some insiders claimed that a powerful capital group was unhappy with her rising influence, worried she might overshadow certain artists they preferred to promote. Others believed she had unintentionally offended someone with significant pull over casting and media channels. A few even suggested that her refusal to bend to certain negotiations had marked her as uncooperative. In C Entertainment, that single word carries more weight than a scandal. It implies disobedience within a system built on quiet compliance. The real escalation came when she accepted a new drama. That should have been a straightforward success. Filming began smoothly, the cast respected her, and early footage showed immense potential. But as promotional materials were prepared, something strange happened. Her presence in the teasers seemed minimized. Posters placed her slightly off-center. Marketing accounts delayed sharing clips highlighting her performance. Even the algorithmic recommendations on streaming platforms appeared to suppress her visibility. When fans questioned the imbalance, the official accounts offered explanations that contradicted one another, slipping between technical issues and artistic direction. Yet behind these explanations, a truth was becoming clear. Someone did not want Yang Zi to dominate the conversation. Then came the moment that would define this period of her career. As the drama premiered, viewers praised her acting, noting her emotional depth and maturity. But almost instantly, an enormous backlash erupted online, drowning out genuine praise. Comment sections filled with claims that she had forced script changes, overshadowed the male lead, or manipulated the production team to give her character more screen time. None of these accusations aligned with reality. Crew members privately expressed confusion at the narrative spreading about her. Colleagues reached out, unable to understand why such hostility had erupted from nowhere. The ferocity of the backlash was unnatural, almost mechanical. Posts criticizing her were amplified at impossible speeds. Messaging patterns revealed clusters of accounts posting identical phrases across multiple platforms. It was not organic dissatisfaction. It was orchestration, and that orchestration created chaos. Public sentiment wavered. Bronze pause campaigns, media outlets, sensing controversy, replayed the same unverified claims until they became an echo chamber of distorted truth. Yang Zi found herself in the center of a storm she had not created. The stress compounded quietly. She appeared composed in public, her voice steady, her demeanor calm. But beneath the surface, a more profound conflict grew within her. She had always believed that sincerity and hard work could withstand the pressures of the industry. Yet now she was confronting a reality in which unseen power could rewrite public opinion in minutes, in which her image could be reshaped without her consent, and in which battles were fought not on talent, but on influence. The breaking point came when one of her most promising film opportunities dissolved with no warning. She had been in advanced talks, preparing emotionally for the role, investing time into understanding the character. And yet, just as negotiations seemed finalized, the production informed her team that the role had been reassigned. The replacement actress was younger, less experienced, but tied to a company with far stronger capital influence. The reasons offered were vague and contradictory, echoing the same hollow explanations she had heard before. But this time, Yang Zi felt the weight of what was truly happening. It was not just one role being taken away. It was her future being shaped by forces she could not see. She withdrew briefly from the public eye, not out of defeat, but reflection. For the first time, she recognized the scale of the struggle before her. It was not about surviving a controversy or correcting a misunderstanding. It was about confronting a system that quietly decides who rises and who falls, who shines and who is dimmed. She had stepped into a battlefield where the rules were never spoken aloud, but enforced with impeccable precision. Yet even in this moment of crisis, something shifted inside her. The pressure that had been designed to break her instead clarified her purpose. If the industry expected her to retreat, she would not give them that satisfaction. If they wanted her silent, she would speak through her work. If they wanted her subdued, she would rise through sheer persistence. And so, instead of collapsing under the weight placed upon her, Yang Zi prepared for the long fight ahead, not with anger but with an unyielding, quiet strength. This was the climax of her unseen war, the moment when she finally understood the magnitude of the forces surrounding her. But it was also the moment she decided that no matter how strong those forces were, they would not decide her destiny. In the weeks following the turmoil, Yang Zi found herself navigating an industry that suddenly felt unfamiliar. The world around her had not changed, yet everything within it seemed different. Meetings carried a quieter tension. Offers arrived more slowly. Conversations with producers were marked by an unspoken caution, as though each person was weighing the invisible cost of working with her. She could feel the scrutiny without seeing the faces behind it, a pressure that pressed against her from all angles, yet never revealed its source. For a time, the uncertainty shaken her, confidence in ways she rarely admitted. Acting had always been a place where she felt free, where she could express herself without fear or restraint. But now, even stepping onto a set carried the weight of expectations she could not control. She worried that every gesture might be misinterpreted, that every decision might trigger another fabricated controversy. The joy that once greeted her each time she faced a camera became muted, replaced by a cautious awareness of how easily her work could be distorted by those with motives beyond her understanding. Yet the most profound impact was not external, it was internal. She began questioning the meaning of success in a world where progress could be undone by politics rather than performance. She wondered whether decades of dedication could truly shield her from the whims of power. She questioned whom she could trust, who genuinely supported her, who remained by her side because they believed in her, and who stayed only because they expected something in return. The collision of loyalty and betrayal weighed heavily on her, forcing her to confront what it meant to stand alone in an industry built on alliances. But even as she grappled with these doubts, something inside her shifted. The storm had exhausted her, yet had also clarified her purpose. She realized that surviving in entertainment required more than talent. It required resilience born not of denial, but of understanding. She could not fight invisible forces by pretending they did not exist. Instead, she chose to understand the system, to learn its rhythms, its power structures, its unwritten rules. Knowledge, she discovered, was a weapon as sharp as any influence. While some projects slipped away, others found their way to her. With a surprising sense of sincerity, directors who valued skill over politics sought her out precisely because they recognized the challenges she faced. Colleagues who had witnessed her struggles offered quiet support. Slowly, the narrative that sought to confine her began to fracture, not because the external pressures lessened, but because her perseverance refused to align with the image others tried to impose on her. Audiences, too, played a crucial role in reshaping her path. Public sentiment has always held unpredictable power, but in Yang Zi's case, it became a lifeline. As viewers recognized the pattern of targeted negativity surrounding her, sympathy grew into admiration. The resilience she displayed in silence resonated deeply with fans who saw in her not a fallen star, but someone fighting to remain authentic in a world demanding conformity. Their unwavering loyalty countered the orchestrated criticism, creating a counterforce she never asked for but desperately needed. In time, this emotional connection became her shield. Brands returned with renewed interest, drawn less by superficial trends and more by the stability of her fan base. New roles emerged, crafted by creators who appreciated her emotional depth and saw beyond the noise. The path forward remained complex, but no longer hopeless. Her survival through the ordeal became proof of her strength, and within the industry, some began to regard her not as a risk, but as someone who could withstand storms that would have swallowed others whole. Still, the scars remained. The experience taught her that the entertainment world was built not only on glamour, but on shadows. It reminded her that power was not always visible, that influence often moved in silence, and that one's reputation could be shaped by narratives carefully engineered rather than accidents of fate. But it also taught her something equally vital. As long as she continued to work with integrity, as long as she remained grounded in who she was, no shadow could fully eclipse her light. Yang Zi's journey through backlash, manipulation, and quiet punishment left her changed, but not diminished. The aftermath revealed a woman more self-aware, more cautious, yet more determined than ever. She understood that her fight was not simply for roles or recognition, but for the right to define her own place in an industry that constantly tried to define her for her. And in that understanding, she discovered a strength that would carry her far beyond the darkest chapters she had endured. In the end, Yang Zi's story is not defined by the forces that tried to shape her path, nor by the silent barriers that rose against her. It is defined by the way she continued to move forward when the ground beneath her shifted, by the quiet strength she carried into each moment when the world seemed determined to misunderstand her. She emerged not untouched, but unbroken, and there is something profoundly human in the way she chose resilience over surrender, clarity over confusion, and authenticity over fear. Her journey reveals a truth that many prefer to ignore. The entertainment industry is built upon light, but managed through shadows. Power often whispers instead of speaking. Decisions are made in silence long before the public ever sees their effects. And yet, within this intricate web of influence, there are still those who rise, not because they are protected, but because they refuse to be erased. Yang Zi became one of them, not through confrontation, but through endurance, not through privilege, but through persistence. Her experience forces us to question what it truly means to be successful. Is success the applause that follows a performance, or is it the ability to continue performing even when applause turns to doubt? Is it the number of roles offered, or the refusal to let rejection define one's worth? Yang Zi's story suggests that real success is measured not by how high someone rises, but by how steadily they stand when the world pushes back. And perhaps that is why her audience remains so drawn to her. They do not admire her simply because she is talented. They admire her because they see pieces of their own struggle reflected in hers. They understand what it means to be judged unfairly, to navigate spaces controlled by unseen rules, to feel powerless in front of decisions made without explanation. Watching her persevere gives them permission to believe that they can, too. So what does her story teach us? That light can survive in the shadows. That strength is often quiet, steady, and unseen. That a person's worth cannot be dictated by those who fear it. And that even in an industry where power often belongs to the few, authenticity still carries weight. As we close this chapter of Yang Zi's journey, one question remains for you, the viewer. In a world full of hidden rules and invisible forces, what does it truly mean to take control of your own story? If Yang Zi can continue moving forward despite the currents against her, then perhaps the real question is not whether the system can change, but whether we are willing to believe in those who fight within it. Her path is far from over, but one thing is certain, no matter what storms come next, Yang Zi has already proven that she is more than the narratives written about her. She is the author of her own resilience, and that may be the most powerful role she will ever play.